Welcome to the Orlando Sentinel editorial board interview with State House District 35 incumbent Representative Tom Keene, who surprised a lot of people when he successfully picked off a former Republican seat in a special election in January. Keene, a Navy pilot who reached the rank of commander before leaving the military to work in aerospace, went into the general election in January at a significant fundraising deficit against his Republican opponent, former Osceola School Board member Erica Booth, but still managed to beat her by a fair margin. Now it's time for a rematch, but at least one thing has changed. Keene has the fundraising edge over Booth, and unlike Booth, did not have to fight a primary opponent. We had hoped that the two would appear together today, but Ms. Booth declined, saying she's focused on taking her message directly to voters in her district. Voters can find out more about her by viewing her website at Erica with a K, boothfl.com. So we're going to spend some time chatting with Representative Keene. And Representative, thank you again for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me on again. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Julie, is the first question yours or is it mine? I believe it's
yours,
mine.
Jay.
Okay. All right. Florida has had 3+ years of record spending, thanks in large part to a massive infusion of federal COVID cash. Over the next 2 years, however, state economist Amy Baker says Florida could go from a $2 billion surplus to a $2.9 billion shortfall. What should legislators do in 2025 to deal with that reality?
Well, we've got to do what we always do. We've got competing priorities. Even when we have a lot of money coming in, doesn't seem like there's enough money for every single project that we want to do. So we're going to just have to tighten our belts, and we're going to have to be looking at every single program that we've got. And clearly there's some programs that need some more money. So that's going to be a struggle. And I'm also thinking that we're going to have a pretty good economy, so that deficit might not be quite as big as they're projecting right now. And we've saved some money in our rainy day fund as well. So we've got some wiggle room there.
To drill down a little bit more on the budget issue,
Mm-hmm.
For decades, state funding has been used to support local priorities, such as septic to sewer projects, mental health programs, arts and culture. This year, hundreds of millions of dollars in local programs were slashed, most notably the veto of the entire cultural grant budget.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that the state should be helping with these local projects, and what should the legislature do to make that happen?
Well, that great question. And one of the things that I did on the floor of the House was question that very bill, because I thought it had slashed too much. And so to have it vetoed and completely taken off the table, to me, was wrong. So I do think that we do need to spend money on arts and culture. We are a tourism state, and that's part of the reason why people come to our state. It's not just for the attractions, but it's for some of the arts and cultural events that we also put on. And in addition, our residents want that kind of activity, and that's the kind of thing that we should be providing them. So I absolutely believe that we need to restore the funding, and we actually need to increase it to the levels that we've seen in maybe 3-4 years ago.
I'll ask the next question. Would you be willing to support or file legislation that would give counties greater discretion in the use of tourist development taxes? And if so, what would be your strategy to get a bill through committees?
Yeah, so I do agree that we need to give local government the authority to be able to use that money that they want to use it on, right? So right now we do have some handcuffs on the things that we can do, and I believe that we do need to look at other states and how they're doing it. So, for example, we've heard how Las Vegas does it, and some other cities. We could probably we could trim back some of the funding that we give to certain parts of that from that budget, and concentrate on some things that the Mayor Demings wants to do, which is, increase some infrastructure, put some money into public transportation, potentially increase the budget for our sheriff's department, things like that are affected by all the tourists that visit us. I mean, we have, I don't know, double the population of the city with all the tourists that are here. So we budget for a city of 1.5, and we have a city of almost 3 million with all the tourists that visit every week. So absolutely. Now, as far as getting that through committee, well, we are in the super minority. So the first thing I would suggest is, like more Democrats, make this more of a level playing field so that we have more members on committee and are able then to apply some pressure so that some of those kinds of bills can get through to the floor. And then let members vote on. Let them be accountable.
Thanks for that. I'm going to ask another question that's been in the news a lot lately. So the governor's office was revealed to be working directly with the Department of Environmental Protection to build hotels, golf courses, pickleball, and disc golf courses with little public notice and study as to the environmental damage they could cause. Only the public's outcry made them backtrack. What legislation would you suggest to ensure that doesn't happen again?
Well, we have a process. We have to follow the process that we have, in law now, which wasn't followed. I can tell you that I've received over 500 emails on this, and I don't have a state park that was affected in my district, and yet I received over 500 emails, and there was not one. Usually you get a scattering of a few, but not one that was in support of that project. And I just love the fact that I didn't have anything to do with it. We were just talking about it, and it had already gone through. Looked like it was going to happen. So let's follow the process. I think the legislature should hold agencies accountable that they follow their own rules and regulations and this clearly wasn't done in this case.
Thank you for that answer. I'd like to touch more generally on a area that you've talked a little bit about, and that being home rule. The state legislature has consistently been undermining local government's ability to manage their local affairs. And that means everything from passing rural boundaries to restricting gas leaf blowers and plastic straws. Do you think that's gone too far? And if so, what specifically would you work with like-minded legislators to try to roll back?
Well, and again, this goes back to that supermajority I was talking about. I think we're out of balance right now, and so the legislators that get up there that are in the majority think that they know what's right for folks in Orlando, and yet they're over in Pensacola. Doesn't make any sense to me. So clearly, I believe in home rule, and I think it's important that we follow a process that allows our local legislators to make the rules. So I supported the rural boundary. I went down to the Board of County Commissioners and spoke in support of that initiative so that voters can decide. We just heard this week a challenge to that on the ballot was turned down. So we are going to have that on the November ballot, which I think is very important for voters of Orange County. So I do believe in home rule, and I think that with a better balance in Tallahassee, we'll see a little bit of that. We'll see a break put on that kind of activity.
I'll take the next question. So you cite the need to prepare for climate change and control reckless growth among your top priorities. How would you like to see the legislature tackle this?
Well, first off, we got to put the word climate change back into state regulations and reference the fact that we do have climate change. I was just on an insurance panel with Senator Whitehouse from Rhode Island. He came down to our state, and he talked about how we're like the canary in the coal mine right now with insurance. It's starting to spread across the United States, and it's affected directly by climate change. So insurance companies are seeing that already. They're pricing in extra risk. So we need to take action now. And it certainly starts with not taking out the word climate change. We should be teaching climate change in school. We should be actively looking for things that we can do to reduce greenhouse emissions. For example, another thing that happened, not this session, but last session, was the state was basically prohibited from using electric vehicles, even if they were cheaper to maintain. And I don't understand that. We live in the Sunshine State. We should be looking at all sorts of alternative solar type projects to let our folks here in Florida use the fact that we are in the Sunshine State. So we have to be moving forward, not backward. And it starts right there at the top.
Simple question to follow. What is your opinion of the Live Local Act, the biggest piece of legislation meant to address affordable housing in Florida?
Right. So there was some good things about live local and there were some bad things. So taking out the home rule and allowing developers basically to go forward without challenge, if you will, that wasn't good. But the focus to bring back affordable housing and things like that was good. I have to say, I don't think that we're going to see any work to tweak that bill next year. I don't know what's in the, I mean, obviously something could come up, but I haven't heard of anybody that was going to try to put that back on the agenda again. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Goes back to home rule again, though. We want folks to be able to, vote on their local county commissioners and city councilors, and let those folks that are closest to where they are talk about growth and making sure that that is compatible with the folks that already live there and with the influx of new residents that we're seeing every week, to be honest.
I was wondering, the Florida residents pay more for, and in many cases get less from, their property insurance policies. You'd mentioned this earlier. Lawmakers have been dragged back to Tallahassee time and again to fix it, but there has been no fix in sight. What should be the plan for rescuing the property insurance market?
Right, so it's very complicated, and I'm going to have to be, just very brutally honest about this. I was extremely disappointed when I went up to Tallahassee in January after being elected in the special election. One of my priorities was property insurance. We spent zero time on bills relative to property insurance. So the first priority would be to go back up there and some of the bills that were introduced, let those bills go through committee and let them be heard on the floor. Things like adding in an advocacy commission or an insurance commission that can oversee and be accountable for what's happening there. There was one workshop that was allowed to go through, just a workshop. It was bipartisan. They talked about, and I'm going to paraphrase, and I may not get it exactly right. I've learned more about insurance over the last 6 months than I thought but I'm still not an expert yet. But there was an idea floated, and I think it's kind of an important one that we should go down, and that's to add a wind insurance similar to flood insurance that we have on the national level, and potentially have that either on the national level or right here in the state of Florida, because that's what's driving our insurance rates, is that wind damage. And so to me, that was a great first step. We spent all of 30 minutes on it. It wasn't a bill, it was just a workshop. So extremely disappointed that the legislature didn't do anything in the session that I was just elected for.
Actually, and that kind of brings us to the circumstances of your election. Because Governor DeSantis dragged his heels in setting that special election, you missed more than 2 weeks of the legislative session, and also all the pre-session committee weeks.
Right.
You did manage to pass 2 bills, which was pretty impressive. But should you be reelected, how would this next session be different for you?
Well, as you pointed out, because the special election did drag on, there were actually 2 special elections last year that occurred kind of together. Mine and state rep from South Florida. His was about 4 weeks earlier. And there was really no reason why we couldn't have done both at the same time. And I would have been up in Tallahassee to attend all those committee meetings. So you're right. I wasn't able to attend any of the committee meetings. And I was assigned the banking and insurance subcommittee, which was exactly where I wanted to be. Right. So that was a good thing. But again, we didn't even hear any bills when it came to insurance. So I'd like to go back to that subcommittee again and work with my colleagues to bring forward some bills, as we were talking about, to at least look at this concept of wind coverage as opposed to like flood insurance. I think going up there, I'll have freshman orientation. I'll have a chance to file some bills up front, and then we'll be able to get into that appropriation process a little early as well. So all of the things that a normal legislator will be able to do, we'll be able to jump in, and having that first 6 months basically under my belt, I think that's going to make me even more effective. But I think I was fairly effective going up, as you pointed out. I was able to get 2 bills passed as a co-prime, and we brought about $5 million back, including some money for a water project in Osceola County and a new campus building in Orange County for Valencia.
You're actually doing a great job of setting up my next question. Because as you've acknowledged, Democrats are in a not so super minority. And that may change with the coming election. We nobody really has a crystal ball for that one this year, but you still want to do the best you can to represent the constituents of District 35. So what steps are you going to take should you be in the same situation in 2025 to make sure that the people in District 35 are heard and that their needs are met?
So again, another good question, and I think I proved that I can work across the aisle. I went up, as we just talked about, in that special election in January, immediately reached out across the aisle to my colleagues, and I think I was very effective for the residents of District 35, and I will continue to do that. So there's some bills I've already, and I'm not going to bring them up now because I want to have the opportunity to socialize them, if you will, with my colleagues. But there's some bills that I want to work that I think that I do need to bring in a legislator from the other party to make sure that it's shown as a bipartisan type of bill. I think that's important. I've had town halls right here back at home with Republicans on property insurance, because I thought it was important that we worked in a bipartisan way to make sure that our district residents from both of our districts had an opportunity to hear what the state insurance consumer advocate was talking. And so those are the kind of things that I will continue to do. And I think I have a very good relationship with the folks on the other side. And it's important, regardless of where we are, super minority, majority, etc., to work across the aisle, because we're representing folks from all parties from the district.
So before we ask you for your closing statement, I just wanted to remind our viewers that the Sentinel will be making a recommendation in this race, but we don't expect you to just take our word for it. You can take a look at both candidates in addition to our excellent news coverage. Both of them have websites and social media presences, and there will be other opportunities such as public forums. So if you get a chance to take a look at a lot of those, you'll get a chance to see which one of them best represents your views and needs as a voter in Orange and Osceola counties. And most important, you have to remember to vote on or before November 5th. And so thank you so much. And Representative Keene, if you'd like to go ahead and give us your closing pitch as to why voters should choose you in District 35.
District 35. That's it. Yeah. Well, thank you for given me this opportunity to present my views and get those views out to the people, because I think it's important, right? Your readers are going to be seeing this. You'll have it in the paper as well as video online. So I think that's a really good way to directly talk to voters. I want to thank all of the voters, by the way, who did vote for me in the special election. I'd like to just point out that more Republicans voted in the special election than Democrats. I don't know exactly how they voted, but I ended up at the top. So I've got an opinion on that. I want to continue to work hard, and I'm confident the voters will support me again in this election. I think the Floridians and the folks of District 35 are kind of fed up with the leadership they see in Tallahassee, and they're ready to push me back up there and complete some change. We claim to be the free state of Florida, yet we have 2 ballot initiatives that address just that in November. We heard the governor last week talk about both of them, Amendment 3 and Amendment 4. I'm yes on 3 and yes on 4. My opponent, if you've listened to what the governor says, and he endorsed her, would be no on 3 and no on 4. So when voters go into the ballot box, they should know how we stand on these very, very important issues. You can learn more about me at keenforflorida.com. That's my website, KEENFORFL.com. And I'm looking forward to representing District 35 in Tallahassee again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We wish you the best of luck, and we will look forward to seeing what happens in the general.